comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So I'm back in Australia after an absolute fucking nightmare at the airport last night. Pretty much as soon as I fucking released the podcast last night, which I was rushing to do, it ended up being a dog shit podcast because I was at the airport and the fucking flight was about to go. I was slamming my fucking Whopper as well. I didn't even get to enjoy that fucking hunk of shit that costs like $15. I was rushing because I had to catch the flight, but as soon as I pressed send on the podcast and it released, the fucking hounds of hell were unleashed on the airport. Basically a typhoon fell on the airport, lightning, thunder, absolutely bucketing down. And everyone's waiting in the gate area. And I'm like, this plane's not going anywhere. And my wife's like, they haven't cancelled it. I'm like, look out the window. There's lightning and there's thunder and the rain is like fucking Forrest Gump. Side would rain. Rain that would come up from underneath. So is Tom Hanks a pedophile or not? I don't know. It seems like he is. And that would change how I feel about Forrest Gump. Anyway, I'm like, let's find a nook to crash in because this plane is not going anywhere. And then it got to 9 or 8. It got to 7. It was 7 when I was meant to fly out. And I'm like, it's not going anywhere. And they didn't even announce it was going to be delayed until 9:30. And then they said it was going to go 10:30. By this time, I'm over it. We're like fucking 10 gates down in a quiet area, just fucking sitting there with the kids, just got them tapped into the internet, phones, we're all absolutely shattered, exhausted. So you have to throw the kids on the fucking iPad. It's at the airport in a delay. So we ended up going back to the gate at like 10 or whatever the fuck it was for a 10:35 flight. Then when we went to the gate, everyone was still there. They immediately changed gates to a different time. So we went to that new gate, new time of departure, 11:35. 11:35 came and went. 12 o'clock, sitting there, boarding time. It was pretty much a 5-hour delay. And Ho Chi Minh Airport is not exciting. It's all USD there and they've jacked the prices up so you can't even enjoy a fucking dart because I packed the darts I bought back. And a coffee. A coffee is like fucking $6. After paying like $1.50 or $2 per coffee, it's hard to pay $6, which is like 8.5, 9 Australian. So you just don't do it. I still did it because I was getting pretty fucking tired. Anyway, we got on the flight and the kids were wrecked. My daughter was asleep. She just slept through the whole thing. I was sitting next to my son and some annoying Indian guy who was next to me who kept on like leaning. So I've got him on one side and then my son on the other side. When he fell asleep, he didn't stop farting the whole time. Just continuous farting directly, like his ass was aimed at me and he was just unleashing. And I didn't want to wake him up because that's its own thing. Like if he wakes up from a sleep, it's like, fuck, now I got to put up with awake him. And he's still farting awake anyway. So I got a fucking barrage from both sides. And I got like very little sleep. Then I get home and it's just exhaustion, depression, a $70 taxi fare home. They always fuck us because you can't take a little kid in an Uber unless they have a seat. So Uber doesn't take you. It was like $35 in an Uber, but they wouldn't take the kid. And then we had to catch a fucking dodgy taxi. And I warned him, I'm like, turn the meter on now because last time we did this, I got into a fucking fight. So I want to see the meter. He's like, the meter's on. We're doing it already. And then I'm like, no, turn it around so I can see it. And it wasn't on, obviously. And then he was like trying to log in and couldn't log in, do all this and that. And he's like, all right, it will cost like $55. I'm like, all right, that's fine. And he's like, plus the airport fee. I'm like, how much is the airport fee? He's like, $15. I'm like, this taxi costs more than our second day in Vietnam, you fucking cunt. So back to reality. Anyway, I'm absolutely fucking cooked. And I'm just going to get to this week's Ask Boyle. I'm not even going to fucking give you any of the bullshit. Actually, someone send in, or people just send in some fucked up Fridays. So I've got one for this week. I do have a few, but they're so fucking long. So if you got a shorty, I mean, not a full shorty, but like a medium one, an entertaining something, just send it in. The cunt who sent me in the long one's going to be pissed listening to this, but I'll get to it. I'll get to it one of these weeks when I have a little bit more energy and time. It's going to be like a 40-minute fucking read. Anyway, get your fucked up Friday stories in. So this week's Ask Boyle was sent in by Adam from the sunny coast. And here it is. The sunny coast is in Australia, by the way. At the end of last year, my partner Georgia reached out to you about my commitment to quit alcohol for a year with the hopes of making it indefinite. Your voice note with your advice was incredibly helpful and I'm truly grateful for it. Yeah, this guy's missus, Georgia, messaged me and said, yeah, he's quitting alcohol for a year. Can you send him some advice and a voice message? I'm like, right, sweet. No worries. And I did it. And I think I just glanced at his name before I did it. And I got his name wrong. I was like, hey, Andrew, what's happening, mate? Fucking, it's Boyle here. And it was a real, like, I really thought about it and sent him a voice message with some advice. And his missus was like, yeah, that was great, except his name's not Andrew, it's Adam. And I'm like, well, fucking, who's Andrew then? Who the fuck is Andrew? Anyway, it looks like the advice worked, even though it was meant for Andrew. So here's the rest of it. I haven't had a drink since January 2, 2024, and I've committed to never drinking again. However, I'm currently facing strong urges and fantasizing about having a drink. I find myself looking for reasons to justify it, like the beautiful weather or the taste of wine with dinner. While I used to drink for emotional reasons, these new justifications are becoming harder to ignore, though I'm scared of the consequences. I've heard you discuss this part of the journey, but haven't come across any specific tools for dealing with these urges. Is this feeling normal? If so, how did you move past it? And what recommendations do you have for someone like me to navigate this phase? Much love, Adam. Well, Andrew, you have come to the right place. So this is a tricky little fucking phase you're going through here. See, the thing is, like, there's always going to be justifications for drinking. That's one of the hardest parts about stopping, is there's always a reason. But I understand what you're going through now. You feel like you're completely, you've completely unhooked from the reasons you used to drink before. And now the reasons that you'll be drinking if you start drinking again are just like, hey, it's a sunny day. Why not have a drink? It's all good. Like, they're very innocent justifications. But that is like part of the trick. It's like that phase 3 months in that I tell everyone about, the plateau, where you actually feel just as bad sober as you did when you were drinking. So you start thinking, well, if I feel this bad, I might as well just drink. And normally people just start drinking again. So this is what you're going through, is a normal feeling. But here's the problem you're going to face now, which is different for me. I went through that phase previously and I pretty much just started drinking again and then lost a decade of my life. So I had to learn the lesson. I had to learn that innocent drink is actually very nefarious, and it took me pretty much more or less another decade to stop again once I started after that break. Now, the tricky part for you is going to be, do you have potentially another decade of drinking up your sleeves that you can wrangle with? Because you've got two options here. You can learn from someone else's mistake, which is always a difficult thing to do because it's much easier just to learn from mistakes yourself than take guidance from other people. Or you're going to have to make the mistake yourself and go through it. But I can tell you right now, there's nothing on the other end of that drink that you want to have that you need. I went through it. I went through it fucking heaps of times. Even after that full year that I took off in my 20s, I thought I'd conquered drinking. I went straight back to it and I was a complete mess again. And then several times I quit for months, like 3 months here, 6 weeks here, 4 months. And I still hadn't fully learnt the lesson that even if you take time off, once you start up again, you go back to where you were pretty much immediately. The trouble is, I don't know if someone had told me what I'm telling you. I don't know if I would have listened myself. I probably would have thought, well, that guy is a fucking pussy. I'm way mentally stronger than him. I've got my shit together more than him. I know what I'm doing, and I would have started drinking again and had to learn the hard way. But I can assure you, there is nothing for you at the end of that fucking rainbow. It might feel good for a couple of weeks, but I can tell you right now, from my experience, you're better off just taking my advice, learning from my mistakes, and continuing down the path you're going, because it sounds like you're going good. Your missus sent me a message, when was it, a month or two ago? A few months back, saying you're fucking absolutely killing it. So I would just continue down that path. Forget about your wine for dinner and your beer and the sunny day. It's all pointless and worthless. You've probably had a few dreams about drinking and woken up in the morning with cold sweats and breathing a sigh of relief. That's a sign. That's a sign you don't need to be drinking. Anyway, if you need a tool to refocus, maybe take a few shrooms or something. You don't get addicted to shrooms. You can have a nice experience. Even if it's not nice, if you have a bad experience, then it'll keep you on the straight and narrow. If you just need a circuit breaker to break up the monotony of sobriety, then just take a handful of mushrooms and then enjoy the sun, enjoy the day. And once it's over, get back to it. A little bit of clean fun. Anyway, thanks for the question, Andrew. Say hi to the missus for me, and I'll see you the fuck later.